Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for staying long.
I just
Over 100 people online. I ask that those in the church, please silence your cell phones, and those on Zoom, please mute. Both ASL and closed captioning are being provided, and I hope that tech gods are on our side and everything is working well. There are two restrooms in the entryway behind you. One of them will off the entryway, off the entryway behind you, one of them fully accessible. And if you need any assistance, just ask one of our volunteers during the church manual. Thank you. We'll begin with a prayer. Loving and eternal God, we are gathered to celebrate the life of Ben Spangenberg, beloved friend, colleague, brother, and son. It's always hard to say goodbye, and we grieve Ben's loss with all our hearts. We are also grateful for the wonderful life he lived, knowing he lived it to the fullest. We ask for your presence with those Ben left behind, comforting us in our sorrow and embracing us with your love. And we pray you'll be with us as we remember him here today. Amen. In memory of Ben, I now light these candles of hope and healing for the world. May their light illumine all places, beings, and situations without exception, near and far. Robin and Ramsey will play Amazing Grace. Thank you. I now invite us all into a time of remembrance. Ben's mother, Stephanie, will speak first, and then anyone who would like to share a memory is welcome to come forward. We ask that you please speak at the microphone, or I will bring the microphone to you so that all those online can hear as well.
The doctor said when Ben was born, don't take him home from the hospital. He will be a vegetable. Let the state take care of him. That's what we were told when he was born. Of course, we did take him home, our precious Ben. I had to be strong. I am strong right now because I have to tell you about Ben's first advocacy job when he was 12 years old. It started with typing. Ben couldn't type. He needed to type for school. I got him a typing tutor, so forth. It just wasn't coming. And if you remember those days, AOL was around doing where you could really find friends all over the United States and type to them. So he got a handle, Ben Wheely, and he started working at his typing. He had a friend on the other end he was typing to. Within 2 weeks, he could type faster than he could talk. Then he typed to a friend, an acquaintance that he never met and wanted to, from Iowa. The friend said, oh, didn't say he typed. I'm thinking about, he had spina bifida as well, and he was in a wheelchair. And he said, I'm thinking about getting a power chair because I'm tired of going up hills. I'm scared to go down them. And Ben said, in Ben Lee way, he didn't shame the boy. He said, oh, I love to play basketball. I love to do wheelies. You think you can do that in an electric chair? The boy had never thought of that. Again, they typed for quite a bit of the day, going back and forth, and the boy agreed. You know, I was kind of silly. I never thought of doing wheelies. I never thought of basketball. You're right, Ben. And Ben also said, you do have your arms, and it's good to feel thankful for your arms to be strong and to make them stronger. So then the boy agreed. He said, Ben, I never thought of the things you're saying. And Ben typed, well, you know, a power chair weighs a lot of weight. Getting it into your parents' cars could be hard. He said, oh. He typed, oh. I don't know how you type, oh, but he did. And he said, My father left as soon as he found out I had spina bifida. And my mother is struggling for her job right now. They want her to be better in geometry, and she's not. And I don't know how to help. Ben said, put her on. And he tutored that woman for 1 month, reading up on geometry before he even took it himself to teach her how to do geometry. And she got an A+. So that was Ben's very first job at what he did for his life's passion, is gently help people understand the value and the beauty they already have. They don't have to get it, they've got it. And Ben knew it, and nobody could do that like Ben. Nobody. The day before Ben passed was, it was National Sons Day. So I had fun writing these letters, these words for Ben. He's smart, he's talented, he's ingenious, he's thoughtful, he's loving. By the way, before I go on, wouldn't it be nice to tell people before they're leaving the wonderful feelings that you have about your friends? I happen to say these before losing Ben, but we can all take to heart. Look at my daughter standing around me. Look at your own family, your own friends that are so beautiful. Tell them today. He's loving, he's innovative, he's inventful, he is fair. When I say these, you can recognize Ben. He is gorgeous, he is funny, he's rambunctious, he is patient, he is hardworking, he's interested and interesting. Really big things in my book. He is a listener. He loves to help. He adores his kitties. He's a wonderful chess player. He loves to read. Oh, did he ever? He understands complex things. He can describe complex things to me. He supports people, things, and ideas. He is loyal. He can be calm. He's persuasive when he needs to be. He's respectful. He can be he can be daring if he needs to be. He is vigorous. He can argue two sides of a problem. Oh, could he do that? He always saw the other side and appreciated it, like nobody did. He could argue both sides. He always saw the wisdom in both sides. Wouldn't our country be a little better if we could do that today? He is very good at Wordle. He loves his work, and did he ever? He loves driving. Oh my God. It was his freedom. He loved to drive. Oh my God. Oh my God. He is honest. He is dear. He is my son. So, thank you all for being with us here today. He loved you one and all. I look around and I see people that I know and that Ben knows. And he loved you with all his heart. Thank you. Thank you. If I didn't have Parkinson's, I wouldn't have been home these last months with Ben. I wouldn't have had him to talk to. Many of those pictures there are him tucking me into bed at night. So I say, yay, Parkinson's. I'm lucky to have it.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. Are there others who would like to speak? I know you do. Could you all help Stephanie just move a little bit over this way so that the others can come forward? And then if you're going to speak, come on up. If you are able to come to the mic, to this mic. Yeah, that's sort of a surround sound, weird mic. So one person at a time, come on up to this mic. And after the first person speaks at this mic, I'm going to bring the mic down to you. Okay, perfect. Okay. I just thought we'd alternate. All right, so speak directly into the mic so that everybody online can hear you as well.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ariel Sims. Pronouns are they, them, or she, hers. I'm a white non-binary individual with red hair. I'm wearing glasses today, black pants, a black shirt with blue flowers. I am the president and CEO of Respectability, where Ben worked. It was an immense privilege and honor to work with Ben. He was a friend and a colleague, and he managed our national leadership program. And on behalf of the entire team of Respectability, our board, advisors, staff, fellows, past and present, we just want to extend our deepest condolences to the family and to the disability community at large, who benefited from Ben's tremendous advocacy and his service. And I just want to acknowledge the Respectability team who is here today, and you'll hear from a few more of our colleagues. As you'll no doubt hear often today, developing and cultivating disabled leaders was one of Ben's passions. You know, he told me once that people would have to take his job as the manager of the National Leadership Program by force because he loved that job so much. Now, he actually used much stronger language than that, but I can't say it in a church. More than 200 disabled leaders have benefited from what's become known to our team as Benly wisdom. Every day, without fail, Ben would be there not just for those currently participating in the leadership programs, but for those who had long since graduated and those in the community at large. And I want to thank and acknowledge all of the fellows of Respectability, past and present, who are here and also attending remotely to honor Ben today. Thank you. One of our former fellows and current staff member, Isabella Vargas, who is not able to make the trip to DC in person today, asked me to share the following tribute on her behalf, which perfectly captures the impact Ben made in the lives of so many emerging disabled leaders. Looking back, my first introduction to disability was Ben Spangenberg. At the time, I was applying to a fellowship at Respectability, but was still fighting shame about my identity as a disabled person. I still had no idea that a whole community of people like me existed and thrived. I am grateful that Ben was my first introduction to this community. I and a large group of other fellows struck gold with Ben as a mentor. Ben was as passionate as he was compassionate, as funny as he was kind, and his dedication to those around him inspired me and will continue to inspire me on a regular basis. He cared deeply, and this care was pivotal to me as someone coming in to her disability identity. Ben represents some of the most beautiful aspects of our community. His care will live on in me and other fellows as we tackle this world in stride because someone like Ben believed in us. His loss is still unfathomable, and for a while I struggled with knowing that people this kind and passionate eventually have to depart our community. But in his memory, I will continue to advocate and keep moving forward. His memory is everything our community will continue to fight for. Like Isabella, when I first joined Respectability, Ben was one of the first team members I met. He told me that the team at Respectability was a family, and it turns out he was absolutely right. Now, what he didn't say back then, but I came to learn during my tenure, was that Ben was a big part of why Respectability is more than just a team of disabled and disability advocates working toward common goals. Ben recognized and appreciated the humanity in all of us and understood better than most that our authentic disabled identities made us powerful human beings. These identities make us better advocates and models for those who come after us. Now, Ben was also known for a few other things on our team. Besides his Benly wisdom and his incredible mentorship, he was known for his deep love for his husband, Justin, whom he waited to marry until marriage equality was the law of the land in all 50 states. And I'm so grateful to see Justin's mother here today. He was also known for his sharp sense of humor and his wonderful dad jokes. He was also known in recent years especially for his incredible hair. Perhaps most importantly, though his hair was pretty amazing, he was known for his absolute dedication for making a world not made for those of us who are disabled a more inclusive and welcoming place. This spirit of service and challenging ourselves to always do more and do better lives on through all Respectability team members, past, present, and future, who were and will be touched by Ben's legacy. Ben, we are keeping you close to our hearts as we continue your good work.
Thank you. Next.
Hi, I'm Tanya Koslow. I am Ben's work sister. He was just the light of the office. We work for the same organization, but we chose to be friends and work siblings. I will always cherish our goofy conversations, our joyful chats, our sad times, and our shared love for all of the fellows who came through our program. They are young adults, but we love them like our own children. I remember first meeting Ben in our old office. Ben and Justin were sitting there smiling, those big toothy grins, and waiting for the paperwork queen to come up. And Ben introduced them and said, "We're the gay couple ready to roll." So I could see how much they loved each other. They just radiated that. And they did wait to get married legally in Maryland, but they were so smitten with each other, you could tell. Ben never met a stranger. He and my mom got to know each other over the years when she would visit and I would take her into the office with me. Ben was one of the few folks who did have my mom's home phone number. And yes, she still has a landline. He would call her when I was visiting her in North Carolina, and they would talk like they were long-lost buddies. Stephanie, my mom wanted you to know how much she loved Ben too, and how much she enjoyed sharing him. And she would love to be here too. Ben was also funny. Some of our funniest conversations had our beloved cats involved. During the pandemic, Respectability went totally remote. We used Zoom for all of our meetings. And of course, our pets, the kitties, our kids, our spouses, and even our houseplants were involved in all those conversations. Ben's cats usually are around his neck somewhere. Along with my cats, when they saw each other on screen, would start chittering at each other. It was like they knew each other. And in our second office space, we had a desk in the reception area, and the desk had all kinds of gizmos like lint rollers, safety pins, anti-static spray. So we all kind of used the stuff in there. And one day Ben comes rolling in my office, and he had just got his brand new wheelchair, and Miss Madison had been all over it. And he was like, "Can you help me lint roll?" Because he was getting ready to go into a meeting. And I'm like, "Yeah." So we're, Ben's rolling one side and I'm trying to help him, and all the cat fur's flying everywhere. And we just start cracking up. And I think it was Debbie from next door come and goes, "Shh." And it just made us burst out laughing even more. I mean, we finally shut the door and just kept laughing. But we did get the fur cleaned off finally. So yeah, we had really good times together, and Ben's light is going to continue to shine in all of our staff, our fellows, and so many others that he touched. Ben taught us to fight for everyone's rights and to fight for that space at the decision-making table. And we'll continue to honor the good fight, and Ben will live in my heart always.
Thank you.
It may be 2 weeks, but it still feels like yesterday. I first met Ben and Justin in 2015, shortly after the birth of my daughter. And I'm sharing that because one of my favorite memories is early on in our time together, when my daughter was about 1 year old, and she would come into the office with me roughly 2 times a week. And she would love to deliver packages from office to office. And I would love it because Ben and Justin would always have scrap paper around or little things that they would have brought from home, little toys and such for my daughter to pick up and bring around to the others into the office. And her experience, her ability to have just spent time with Ben has influenced who she is as a young child now. She understands that disability is not a bad thing. And so even though Ben was not actively teaching her, just by being himself and being that good person who wanted to spend time with her and invited her into his office, has made a difference in a life that he wasn't even intending on. Personally, Ben was there for me when I acquired my own disability in 2018. He really helped me navigate new situations, demonstrating the importance of adaptability. We've had numerous conversations since then as different things occurred to each of our bodies as we were navigating different things and being able to just kind of share thoughts and such. Prior to the pandemic, we would spend hours in each other's offices. I can't tell you how many times my husband would be like, "Are you coming home?" And we were both done work, but we were just like chatting about, how could we kind of advance new ways for the next cohort of fellows, or debriefing after a difficult day, and just kind of being there with each other. And both of our husbands saying, "Coming home yet? Coming home yet?" He was a support system, not only to our fellows, as has been discussed, but to many of our staff as well, making work more like an opportunity to engage with some chosen family over just colleagues. Ben truly gave his all when working with fellows. He knew personally how it felt to be discriminated against in the workplace due to his disability, and he not only fought hard to help change the landscape for future individuals, but he imparted his Bentley wisdom to more than 200 fellows who came through the program under his tutelage. He has helped countless people learn how to advocate for themselves, especially in terms of disability accommodations. Ben put his whole self into work for such an important reason, to help others find success in their lives. It's going to be really missed in my family, in our work family, and in the greater disability community.
Thank you.
Okay, I can do this. I promised Ben I would do this, so I'm going to do it. And you can't cry because I'll cry. I met Ben and Justin, my husband and I met Ben and Justin at Jennifer Mizrahi's house at a New Year's Eve, New Year's Day party. And it was just an instant connection. And my husband was thrilled to death. We discovered very quickly that we had this mutual love for baseball. And one of my very earliest memories of being a person is being at the old Fulton County Stadium in Atlanta, Georgia, cheering on the Braves. And so I'm recounting this story, and Ben's eyes are just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And Justin looked at me, he said, "You really need to stop." And I said, "No." And my husband said, "I could have told you she was going to say that." And they discovered, I'm going to let you in on the dirty little secret, I'm sit on the right-hand side of the aisle politically. And that's a weird space to be in as a person with a disability, but it's where I am. And we had what we called purple conversations. And the Cheesecake Factory on Wisconsin Avenue got used to seeing us, and we would come in, and the husbands quit coming because they said it was like watching us do the maypole dance, and they were not part of it. We would put the issue, and then we would trot around the maypole. Well, I think this, and you think that. Well, I understand why you think that. Do you understand why I think this? And he said, "I think you're the most nuanced conservative I've ever met in my life." And I looked at him and I said, "I think you're the most appreciative liberal I've ever met in my life." And he said, "I'm kind of glad our husbands aren't here, because if I weren't gay and you were younger," I was like, "Stop talking, Ben." And I said, "I am not a cougar." And it got real quiet in the restaurant right before I said the word cougar. And people are like looking, and I don't mind being the center of attention. And I just kind of looked around at everybody and I said, "It's a private conversation." Now, Ben would have cracked up if he could have seen what was going on over here in the corner a second ago, because I'm known as the ringmaster. I'm always directing traffic and organizing people and organizing things. And he would have laughed because I was saying, no, you go, I can wait. When Justin died, he called me. I was one of the first people he called outside of family. And I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's go back to the baseball for a second, because I'm not ready to talk about the Justin thing. So I was a political appointee at HHS during the last administration. I had the awesome privilege of working with Daniel. It's so good to see you again. And any time that Ben felt that there was something that needed to be discussed at HHS, my phone got really hot. And it was text after text after text after text after text. And that's fine, because that's how I operate. But we had HHS night at Nat Stadium. And you have to understand, by that point, my mother was living here, and my mother still was, until she died in August, a diehard Braves fan. And so it happened to be a Nats Braves game. And I told her, I said, "Mom, my friends Justin and Ben are coming, and they are not Braves fans. And I need for you to be a little lower key than usual, please." And she didn't listen. And I had scowling going, I'm sitting between them, and she's like, "I could just adopt them, except they're Nats fans and Orioles fans, and they just don't like the Braves." I said, "Mom, I told you." And they're scowling at me, and she's scowling at me, and I'm feeling very persecuted at this point. And I also have spina bifida with hydrocephalus. I do not have a shunt, and I get very hot very easily in the summer. And I was about to pass out, and all of a sudden there's water going over my head. Ben had opened up a bottle of water and was just dumping it over my head. And here's the thing about Ben, and it ties into Justin's death. Ben cared about other people more than he cared about himself. He saw other people before he saw himself. And I was diagnosed with breast cancer in January of 2021. The day that all hell was breaking loose at the Capitol, I was in the oncologist office being told that they didn't know if they'd caught it in time. And I was like, all right, I am one tough cookie, and it does not know it who's, and so after we kind of started letting the news out, called Ben and told him. And he said, does cancer have any idea who it has screwed with? And I said, it's about to find out. It is on. And so he kept telling me that it was too bad I wasn't a cougar because I was the hottest bald woman he had ever seen. But that's just Ben. I mean, he built you up. You left feeling like $1 million. And he let me have access to his fellows because he's like, they need to hear other points of view besides just us. And he said, respectability is supposed to be nonpartisan and bipartisan. And I need your voice in this conversation. And it was such an honor to be trusted with those young lives and young minds that wanted to be molded, and to have enough wisdom to listen, and I guess it was Ben wisdom, to listen to other perspectives than what they had always heard. And I needed to hear what they had to say. So I'm in the throes of chemo, and I've gone to a bad place where there was a point that I was so sick they didn't know if I was going to live till the end of the week at one point. And it was right after that Justin died. And the doctor sat on me, and she was like, if I find out that you've gone to that wake, I will come and get you and lock you in a hospital room. And I knew she was serious because that's how weak my immune system was. We weren't even letting people come in the house because I was so very weak. And I called Ben and I said, Ben, the doctor doesn't want me to come, but I'm going to chance it. And he goes, I will make sure that you are safe. And I said, no, this is your husband's wake and you will need to greet people. He goes, well, that's part of the reason I need you here in case there's not somebody I don't want to talk to. I need you to divert them. I said, so you weren't really concerned about me being safe. You were concerned about having a diversionary tactic. He said, but you're so good at it. I'm like, so I ended up not, and there's this conversation at that point. We were living just off Chevy Chase Circle on the DC side. And I had gotten off the metro at AU, and I was rolling down to Sibley. And people must have thought I was crazy because we're having this very loud conversation. And I have him on speakerphone because we brought that out in each other. We brought out this weird, you guys, he called me the DC Bell on Wheels, and I didn't get to be a part of that. But when my mom died, he was like, do I need to come to Tennessee? I'm like, Ben, you're not feeling well. You need to stay right where you are. In the morning of the funeral, I didn't know if I was going to be able to give the eulogy, and I had a pretty extended moment of the sobbing that you heard at the beginning. And until my sister, who's 10 years older than I, looked at me cross-eyed and was like, and for those of you who are the younger sibling, you know when the older sibling looks at you, you just need to just can it because they're in charge at that point. So, but that morning I texted Ben and I said, I don't think I can do this. And he goes, you are one tough witch with a B, and you're going to get up there and make your mama proud. I was like, all right, I guess that's what I'm going to do. So that's what I did. And he called me to find out how it had gone. Now, fast forward to the Friday of the surgery. And he called me before surgery. And he said, I just want you to know how much I love you. And I know you're hurting right now, and I can't wait to get better so that I can just come and hug on you. And I said, you call me as soon as you come out of the anesthesia. You call me and you let me know how it went. And if I need to get on the train and come up there and deal with some people, I will come. And he goes, that's what I'm counting on. And phone didn't ring. There was no text. And Sunday and all day Saturday, I just was sick because I just in my gut knew something had gone terribly wrong, but I had no idea how wrong it had gone. And then Heather texted me. I texted Ben, and then Heather texted me. And in front of Magruder's, and Jennifer knows exactly where this is, in front of Magruder's on Connecticut Avenue, I had to sit down on the ground because I was wailing so hard. I thought, no, Ben would be so offended by this. He would be secretly pleased that he was so well loved, but he would be so offended that I had allowed that to so sidetrack me from the advocacy that I was getting ready to go do, that he would have yanked a knot in my tail, as we say in the South. And I straightened up, and y'all, I'm barely holding it together, and I know some of you feel the same way, but for Ben, we've got to put our big boy panties on, our big girl panties on, and go change the freaking world. We love you, Ben.
Amen. Thank you. I'm going to ask you to wait just a moment, if you don't mind. I'm going to read a few messages that are online. There are a lot of messages. I'm just going to read a few of the long ones. And then we're going to have a musical interlude, and then we'll begin with more remembrances in person. So from Brigitte, Stephanie, my heart aches for you, your daughters, and everyone who knew Ben. His resilience and bravery weren't just qualities, they were Ben's way of life. In his advocacy, he made significant and concrete changes that will continue to reverberate. Ben might have left us in the physical realm, but his spirit and influence remain undiminished. My children and I send love and strength from California. Claire Sasaki says, Stephanie, amazing, beautiful, heartwarming, especially your voice, laughter, passion, gracious, and your beautiful daughters next to you. And Jane Evans Ryan writes, thank you for gifting your beautiful son to us, Stephanie. Also, thank you for you. You blazed a trail for us parents who came behind you. By example, you demystified the task of raising a child with spina bifida, and so we followed your path. As for Ben, he was in a class of his own. Our family is deeply grateful to have benefited from his bright light.
So I was going to sing something. I was going to sing a song that, I'll read it to you, and then I will explain to you why I'm doing it this way. This is something that I wrote, and I read to the family the day that we buried Ben. And, water is not afraid that it might not achieve its destiny to be part of the sea. So it goes where it flows, and it swims with the fish into the abyss. And yes, it's hard to see, but the same thing holds true for you and for me. We will receive our destiny. A rock stands on a hill. It's standing there still. Someday it will fall and get ground into sand and spread through the land on the back of the wind. And yes, it's hard to see, but the same thing holds true for you and for me. We will receive our destiny. The sun shines in the sky and warms us from high as it shares with the trees to allow us to breathe. It does this for free. so we can be. And yes, it's hard to see, but the same thing holds true for you and for me. We will receive our destiny. Wind can sometimes sing songs, bring changes along, push boats through the sea that brings you to me. But in the end, the wind sets us free. And yes, it's hard to see, but the same thing holds true for you and for me. We will receive our destiny. I started writing this song about probably 30 years ago, before I met Ben. And I was having trouble. It's about elements. It's about, earth, air, fire, water. And I had real problem with fire because it seemed so scary and negative and everything. And Ben said, "There's fire all around you." And I said, "What do you mean there's fire all around?" He says, "Well, look up at the sky. There's light. There's the sun. That's fire." And I realized that he is right, and that would be great in the song. And so I put that part about the sun. Ben is my brother-in-law, but my brother. And he will always be that. And I have experienced grief earlier in my life. My own father died. Dear friends of mine died. But I have not experienced this. I feel so deeply. And for that, I am grateful, because that is Ben, and he is in my heart and will always be in my heart, as for many of you.
Thank you, Ramsey. Actually, I think that we're going to start this particular segment of remembrances with Polly.
I'm going to read a quote. The quote's not in my pocket. I'm going to speak from my heart. My heart is so full. My heart feels so much love that when my beloved brother came home and I saw how he moved with some qualities that I had never seen before. This amazing being continued to shine and vibrate on another level. My brother, so precious to me, such a beautiful inspiration, carving out what some people call Dharma. My brother showed me how I wanted to live my life, what I wanted to cultivate in my life, that sense of magic that our mother speaks of, that we can feel on a deeper level than the visual. We can experience that vibration. My brother showed me, as I was graduating a year early from high school and volunteering with the physical and occupational therapist, that I too could become an occupational therapist. And I've been one for 33 years. My brother showed me that I can make choices in my life. I can be proud. I can stand tall. He paved the way for me, for my family, for so many people on this earth, for all humankind. I have some deep friends that were close friends of my mother, and they always wanted Ben to run for president. Yay, Ben for president! I feel like in meeting my respectability family, who I've been reaching out to a little bit, that he did that in his own way. He carved this path for all of us to feel our strength and stand tall in our own boots or sit tall in our wheelchairs. And I'm grateful for his light, and I feel him with me very strongly. I miss him profoundly, and I feel him with me in my breath. I feel him with me in all sights in nature. And for this, I feel amazingly blessed because he's so with me all the time. My mother feels the same way a lot of the time. And Kyle, would you care to join me? This is my son, Kyle. This is Ben's eldest nephew. And he chose to witness something that not everyone does. He chose to watch me deliver my son. He was at the birth.
I was born.
He wanted to be there. So not every 14-year-old wants to be there or requests it. So one of the sweetest things about their time together was driving. We drove to Vermont last year. I think it's about September, and we had a beautiful road trip. And we talk about things like Ben's favorite music. Kyle adores music.
Yes.
And it's just really, really precious that he cares so deeply about all three of his nephews. And he always wants to feel close to us, even though we're over in California. He just wants to continue to reach out and check in, just as Justin did. Very, very kind and loving and engaging. And we just thank you all with all of our hearts for being a beautiful family of Ben. Thank you. Want to say anything else? Do you want to say anything else? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you both.
Hi, I'm Ben's friend, Daniel. I I made a to-do list the weekend before I learned that Ben had passed away, as I often do, and featured prominently on it, as so often was the case, was to contact Ben. He had always been there for me one way or another when I needed him. Only this time, I wasn't aware he was already gone. Lucy and I, my significant other and I, were streaming a show last night on Netflix, and the plot of this fictional show dealt with a character appropriately named Daniel, who was grieving a personal loss that he hadn't had the opportunity to process, because he hadn't had a proper chance to say goodbye. And I realized that was part of what was gnawing at me, is that Ben's passing was so sudden that I didn't have a chance to say thanks and goodbye, or even to hint at it. In all honesty, I almost took it as a matter of fact, since he was several years younger than myself, that he'd be around for considerably more time. It didn't feel like it was anywhere near his time. And beyond that, there's so much that even now I want to update him on. I think he'd be very intrigued by the chaotic scramble to choose a new speaker, and he'd be very pleased that the Dodgers lost. And he's also intrigued by the fact that only one of the 4 teams still competing for the World Series actually won their division. So. Yeah, with that, I'm gonna read some of what I wrote, paying tribute to Ben when I was first coming to terms with his untimely passing, and trying to find a way to honor him. Others have and will honor him as a mentor, a role model, a change maker, and a leadership trainer, and he was all of those things and so much more. But I'll honor my friend Ben, who I knew for 24 years, as a constant, steady, dependable, reliable friend who could always be counted upon whenever I needed help or a friendly ear. And so now I'm reading a little bit from what I had written. Ben Spangenberg was one of my very best and longest friends. We met in 1999 at UC Berkeley, served on the Disabled Students Union at Cal and on the Young Democrats of America board together, and worked tirelessly to make YDA more friendly for people with disabilities. We both came to the DC area in the early 2000s and trekked to Chapel Hill to knock doors for Barack Obama in 2008. I was co-best man at his and Justin's wedding, and he was there for me when I was moving, when I was celebrating opportunities, and when I was dealing with setbacks, some of which felt very monumental at the time. And we talked and watched a good deal of baseball together as well. He's been taken from his friends and loved ones way too soon, in just his early 40s, and only a couple years after losing his husband, Justin, who also died too young. NIH just announced that people with disabilities are a health disparity population. But when people with disabilities we care about die so prematurely, yet when receiving medical care, we live that heartbreaking reality. He did great things. Mentoring and doing leadership development for people with disabilities was a passion for him, and he was outstanding in that work. But I know he wanted to do even more and deserved the opportunity. With that, I'll just say, Ben, you've always been there for me, and I know in some way you're still with all of us. Thank you so much for shining your light on the world, and for being the best friend anyone could ever hope to have. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm James Trout. I worked
for Respectability, the nonprofit that Ben served well for and worked under for so many years. I first met Ben and his husband Justin in June 2015 at Respectability, when they were still at their old office on the top top floor of an 11-story building in downtown Bethesda, before they moved eventually to their larger and more accessible office in Rockville. At the time I joined Respectability, an opportunity for which I will forever be grateful for. I met Ben and Justin fairly, from the moment I met Ben and Justin, I knew that they were great people, and they would help contribute not just to my life, but to the lives of many others. Ben was always in a good mood, always friendly, always able to articulate formidable intellect. And he was always someone whom, if I had a problem or if anyone else had a problem, he could approach at any time. But I really got to know him and Justin best when during the fall and winter of 2015, 2016, we were in the middle of this dread thing called the presidential campaign, and I had the good fortune, which again I will forever be grateful to Respectability for, of being able to fly out to both Iowa and New Hampshire and work to advocate for employment opportunities and I served under their wings. But one thing one thing that always pleased me was the fact that working under both of them, I learned, I got to experience what people with physical disabilities in many cases had to go to. As a person who was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome at the age of 15, and who for many years after said diagnosis was ashamed of being a PWD, being around Ben and being around Justin helped make me less ashamed of being a person with a disability, and they both gave me the chance to show what people with physical disabilities could do, and when they arise to the occasion. For example, when we were driving around Iowa and New Hampshire, and anyone who knows either state knows these are fairly rural states with lots of farms, in Iowa's case, and in New Hampshire's case, a lot of mountain ranges and all that. So getting between towns and cities is a lot. So oftentimes when we were going around these towns and cities, and often because they had these, they would often insist on driving, and I'm glad that earlier speakers got to talk about this issue very well. They weren't lying when they said that Ben loved to drive. If anything, both he and Justin drove more around these two states than I and other members were driving around, and they helped positively challenge my notion of what people with spina bifida could do in terms of physical mobility. And it also helped that oftentimes when we were either departing from our hotel and from vicinity in Des Moines and Concord, or going to facilities, oftentimes they would have me help lift them out of their chairs and onto the seats, or vice versa. And I understood more from just through small gestures like that what they could do and what they couldn't do. I remember, but one fond memory I will always have of them, of Ben in particular, was he and I at one point were driving along in Des Moines, and we were talking and being the the history and political junkie that I was and still am, we would talk about California politics, and we were going over the 1988 presidential election counties that Michael Dukakis had lost, that Bill Clinton won. And one thing that amazed me was he, off the top of his head, knew the counties that Dukakis had lost and Clinton had won, and you would think that the Aspie would know these off the top of his would know these off the top of his head, but he knew them. He knew them better than I would, and I am greatly appreciative of it. But he was also a very calming guy. In New Hampshire, when we'd just seen Chris Christie speak in Manchester, but both he and Justin were eager to get to Hart's location, which was then and is now one of the small towns who at midnight during the primary and the general election always release their results at midnight. And being the nervous Nelly that I was, and one, and two, we were driving through New Hampshire when it was snowing out, and this being New Hampshire, they don't do what people around here in DC do, which is they shut everything down when they see one or two flakes of snow. No, they keep going, and we were driving around, and being the nervous Nelly that I was concerned that we weren't going to make it on time, and I said so repeatedly, and they were nicely and politely telling me to just be quiet, or rather to calm down, and they would make it. And surely enough, they were right. We made it in time for the results, and they were nice enough to pay for my hotel in Hart's location, and I will forever be, and I will forever be grateful to them for that activity. October. Thanks in a big part to people like Ben. After I got my master's degree in transportation policy from George Mason University, I stayed active in the disability community. And when I moved back to DC in February of 2019 for my current position, and I posted on Facebook that I was looking for a fairly inexpensive apartment near my then new job. I've been there now for more than 4.5 years, and Ben, being the wonderful soul that he was, gave me, and for whom I will forever be grateful to, recommended my building where I've lived ever since. And it wasn't as incredibly selfless on his part, because ironically, he could not live in my apartment. Unfortunately, I live on the top floor of a 3-story walk-up, so he himself could not physically live there, and it frankly saddens me that he couldn't live there. But I am grateful to him for that opportunity, and for making me, and for making you and other people around him better people. I will forever miss Ben. I will forever miss the wonderful discussions we had about politics, about baseball. As my accent probably indicates, I am a proud Bostonian. So I grew up used to American League rules, and therefore believe in the benefit. Therefore, believe in the DH, and him as a lifelong San Francisco Giants fan, not so much. But at the same time, he is still here in my heart, and he will be in all of our hearts. And as long as we remember him, his positive legacy will stay with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
I wasn't planning on speaking today because I just didn't think, sorry, I wasn't sure I'd be able to. So I wrote something up and I posted it to our website a couple weeks ago. I'll just read it because that's the easiest way for me to get my words out. I initially joined Respectability as a fellow in January 2018 as part of a first fellowship cohort that Ben was fully responsible for recruiting. Some of the people in that cohort remained my closest friends, and without Ben, I would have never met any of them. Later in 2018, I joined the team. I was full-time on staff. Ben and I worked closely together to promote the fellowship program and supervise the communications fellows. I had never managed anybody before, but Ben was a great mentor on how to provide constructive feedback on projects, and he really truly cared about making sure that every single fellow would leave the program ready for success in the workplace. I know that I and everyone else on our team are better managers because of Ben. Up until COVID forced us to go fully remote, Ben and I and the rest of the team had lunch every day together at our office, at the sports bar next to the office, or at other restaurants in the area. I had so many memorable conversations with Ben about politics over these lunches. We tended to agree, but even when we didn't, we still enjoyed debating. Ben was instrumental in training me to feel slightly nauseous whenever I saw someone treated with kids' gloves or as a hero just because they were disabled. We would occasionally torment each other by sending each other inspiration porn we'd seen online or on TV. Can't say it was fun, but it was certainly cathartic. And then once we were both vaccinated and the worst parts of the pandemic were over, I was grateful when Ben reached out and asked if we could have dinner one night. And that led to more than half a dozen dinners we had together in the past year and a half. Ben was more than a coworker for me. He was a really great friend, and I'm really sad that the world would be deprived of the good he would have done if he was still here, and that I won't be able to have another conversation with him. And I am seriously going to miss Ben.
Thank you.
Hi everyone. I'm Adam Fishbein. I was a fellow twice at Respectability. First, my condolences to his family. I was at Respectability, recruited by Ben and Jennifer. First in 2017, in fall of 2017, and at that point, I was a second year at American University. I always had a sense that I wanted to go into disability something, but I wasn't sure exactly how I was going to get there or what exactly I wanted to do. And through Ben's wisdom, Benly advice, I think we called it, and just an amazing opportunity to work with Ben and others at Respectability. That was such a formative experience for me. And I work at the Office of Disability Employment Policy at the Department of Labor, which is my dream job. And I can say with great confidence that without Ben's guidance and times that I just stopped into his office, as I tend to be someone who's very impromptu about conversations, and I call people when I think of it, more so than planning sometimes. So, and I appreciated how Ben was always available to just talk about my career anything and everything. And I recently spoke to the Politics, Policy, and Law 3-year scholars program at American University that I was in before, and this was last week, and I couldn't stop thinking about, as I talked to them, these freshmen, and I thought about Ben's influence on my, yeah, I mean, I'm relatively young, my young career. I just couldn't stop thinking about where I would be today without Ben. And yeah, so may his memory be a blessing. And again, my condolences.
Thank you.
Everyone, my name is Todd Park. I'm one of Ben's friends who immediately found a family member just in the wild. I'm someone who encountered Ben and Justin on one of their best days, and I count myself a sub-student of the master class that was his life and Justin's life, and they taught me so many things. And something that almost every one of you have said about Ben is his most redeeming quality was his absolute selflessness. Every one of us seemed to have had access to him like one of the apps in our phone. How can you have that much impact on everyone and be that accessible to everyone else at a moment's notice with genuine impact, with genuine love? Ramsey, that was so beautiful that you spoke about water and its ability to make change through erosion, and it just goes and it flows here to there, and that was Ben. Ben had this quiet strength and this joy that you may have a political opinion that differs from his, and rather than having a militant response, not devoid of argument, Ben loved an argument. I'd give anything to have a devil's advocate argument with Ben where he was just yanking my chain, trying to get me excited. You don't realize how impactful someone will be in your life until they're gone. And we all have that ability to tell them how we feel when we have that chance. From having a chance encounter at the Supreme Court to the universe will show you who your people are. There is some sort of cosmic karmic force that draws people together, and all of us are somehow bound by those threads, and that's Ben. Ben, I love you. I'm forever in your debt, and I just can we all just take a moment, those of us that knew Ben, and I was reflecting on how much joy and kindness he brought into the world, and that indelible little giggle that he had. I think every one of us at some point this week at coming to that has had our own little giggle about there's professional and composed Ben, and then there's Ben goofing around because we've got cat hair and people are telling us to calm down and this is a professional environment, and then it just devolves into laughter, and that's who he was, and that's what he did, and he taught us all to advocate for ourselves. I'm a beneficiary of the master class that you carry on at Respectability and everything that you do. And, one thing that I will always remember that is the tenet that, Ben and Justin told me is we're all 1 second away from the disability community and the intersectionality there. And Ben never saw a problem that he didn't want to change, that he didn't want to impact, but it was a quiet way about it of, we can make this better. We will not complain. We will improve, and we will point out an injustice when we see it. And I can't think of a better way to live a life. And I love him, and we are all in his debt. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me. Hi. I am Sarah, and you just heard, and probably many of you have heard this story before. I, along with Todd, how we met Ben and Justin outside of the Supreme Court for the marriage equality ruling. And we always love to tell that story because it did feel like fate was bringing us together. We ran into them time after time after time. Finally, we saw them again when the White House was lit up in colors. And out of the thousands of people down there, we stumbled across Ben and Justin once more and said, okay, well, I guess maybe we should exchange information and be friends. And so we did. And we became instant friends. As you've heard, they were waiting to get married, and they invited us. I live in Florida, invited us up just a few months later for their wedding, which was very honored to be able to do and meet their great family. From there, a group chat began that for the last 8 years has been part of just part of every day. We had a group chat with Ben, and everything from serious to silly things, what was happening with his cats or memes, of course, politics, would fly back and forth, and, definitely just, you take for granted that those messages will keep coming in, but he was such an important part of every day, and it's, it's hard to imagine that he's gone. I keep coming back to a quote that I recently saw that says, "Now I have to remember you for longer than I knew you." And while that may be the case, what I know for sure is that the years to come in my life will forever be shaped by the friendship that we had. I will carry Ben in my heart for the rest of my days. Always able to replay, as Todd just mentioned, his infectious laugh in my head, thinking of him with every silly and ridiculous meme that I would share. I will share his friendship with people to come who I probably have not even met yet in my life, making sure that he remains a part of my story for all the years that are left to come. We've all said so much here, and there's so much more that could be said. His legacy and his lives that he's touched spreads far and wide. Everyone here has their own special perspectives and stories to tell. I did want to note on, I know earlier his mom Stephanie mentioned to, tell your friends and tell everyone that you love them. And one thing that I do find some solace in is we did do that with Ben. I know there were some memes where we'd send them, tell your friends you love them, make it weird. And we took that to heart, and we never missed a chance to say, I love you, and not, shy away from that. And, in times like these, of course, you still always wish you had done it more or said it more, but it's so important to do. So just, Ben, I miss you, and I love you, and I'm thankful for all you've brought to my life, for your family that you shared with me, that we've gotten to know. I love you, and I'm so proud of him.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Mizrahi, and I co-founded Respectability, and Ben and Justin were integral to creating Respectability. I mean, they really were. They weren't there in day one, but pretty close after, and they really formed the organization in many ways. So I met them both at the White House, of course, where they taught my daughter, who has cerebral palsy, how to push her way to the front of a line so that she could shake hands with Joe Biden and Barack Obama. She was in middle school, and they didn't even know me, and they were just incredible role models. Shortly thereafter, they both showed up at Respectability and said they wanted to come work for Respectability. And what they didn't realize, because we'd been sending out a lot of emails and trying to look larger than we were, was that we didn't have paid staff. Maybe Hillary was one paid staff, but we had no staff. I was a volunteer. And they had a lot of experience and a lot of contacts. And I said, look, I would love to hire you guys, but we have no money. And they came and they worked for free as fellows, even though they had a lot of experience, until we had money and we could actually pay them. So why would they work for us for free when there's so many other disability organizations where they could help people with disabilities? Why were they there? And what Ben and Justin both said was that we're really tired of disability organizations who play the pity card, who want a handout, who want a bigger piece of the pie. We believe in employment first. We believe in what people with disabilities can do instead of can't do, and we want to create that kind of organization. And that is what the two of them really helped build and create. So I wanted to say that, and I also wanted to say some things that I learned from Ben in particular. One is that I am a real workaholic. Like, I'm a workaholic, and like really bad. And Ben put family first a lot. So there were days when it was 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and he said, Justin and I need to go to the baseball game. And that is just it. We need to go to the baseball game. And there were times when he created really creative ways to get to California and New Hampshire as a work trip, because that's where his family lived. And that would enable him to have work time. One of the problems we had at Respectability is that people didn't take vacation time. They were so committed to the cause that they didn't take vacation time, so much so that we had to force people with a use it or lose it vacation policy because they wouldn't take time for their families. And Ben took the time with Justin to get in the car and then just drive to Charleston or God knows where, because they wanted to go to every state and to see their family. And I think all of us could really learn from that you have to take the time. I mean, they didn't get to live very long, but they lived so large and so big and with so much love. And it was way bigger than their work lives. I also want to point out what I learned from Ben was how to find the good in people and how to live with the bad. It was very important to Ben to find the fellows who had real potential. And it is very easy to look at a resume quickly and say, this person went to the quote unquote better school. This person has the quote unquote more important references. Ben spent an extraordinary time finding the person who frankly had the shitty resume, right? Because nobody gave them a chance. Because probably their parents were told, don't take that child home. But had that spark of good and drive. And so the fellows that went through the program, whether it's Adam or James or Eric or any of the other people, you know, Anthony and other people who are here, he found people who had that golden potential and he built that potential. And so I think it's up to all of us who benefited from Bentley wisdom to take that, you know, and recognize that every human being is just one part of a relay race. And he took that baton and he gave it to people who otherwise wouldn't have had a chance because of their circumstances, because of ableism, because of other things. And really, it's up to us to build on that very significantly. I will also say, for all the good things you heard about Ben, that we had a fellow once who felt that their experience was not what they had thought it was or going to be, and who absolutely flamed Ben online and said that Ben was homophobic. And it was really cruel. And there were people in the disability community who always want to stand with people with disabilities whenever they're wronged, who went online and said that, oh, Ben must be terrible. Ben must be homophobic, which of course everybody who knows him knows was absolutely the opposite. And the dignity and the love that enabled him not to, you know, get into something with someone who was having a mental health crisis, not to be defensive, just to show love and to create space and to know who he was, because he was loving and giving and caring. To his biological family, who he loved, his parents, his in-laws, you know, Justin, his siblings, his biological and non-biological family, to his respectability family, he loved you all. And he lived a great, great life. His life was way, way too short. But all of us benefited from it. And all of us have a moral obligation, I believe, to take the gifts that he gave us and give those gifts forward to the world. I am grateful that I knew Ben, that I got to work with him for many years, that I had lunch with him hundreds of times, that I got to see that Jeb Bush made sure that there were accessible ADA porta potties at every event in Iowa, even though they had to be outside in the snow and he had to build a ramp. That Jeb Bush did that because he knew Ben might show up at his events. And I benefited from seeing Ted Cruz find the ability to talk about mental health and addiction because of Ben. He made the world a better place, and I'm so grateful for every minute that I got to spend with him. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Benny. That's how we got into the habit at respectability of communicating when we came to one or another's offices. He would say, Debbie, Debbie, Debbie. I think Justin started it. Ben just brought joy to the workplace, even during stressful and difficult times. And I have to say that at one point, my daughter, who is now a special ed teacher, was a student at Towson University. And the professor commented that she was looking for someone to come to speak to the class. So my daughter said, I know someone, because she had known Ben through me. And anyway, so Ben was invited to speak at Towson University as to the upcoming class. And then Ben was such a wow at the university, they invited him to come back for every semester. He would go and do a presentation and a lecture. So at that point, Benny became professor. So love Ben, his memory, may it be a blessing. I would say that he has earned and has always earned the highest Yiddish compliment. Ben was a real mensch. Ben was a mensch. And I just also want to point out that this wall art here has someone in a wheelchair. And Ben, you're with us forever, and may his memory be a blessing.
Thank you.
I knew Ben as a friend at UC Berkeley, and undergraduate is such a time of hope and excitement and growing up and growth. And so it is no surprise to me to come to Ben's memorial service and see that he grew to have such an extraordinarily successful career as an advocate and in politics. But it would also be a bit of praise and love that we're missing on his name if I were not to say, on behalf of all of the people who knew and loved Ben in undergrad at UC Berkeley, and this should come as no surprise to his friends and family, that he was very popular and very well liked and very well loved, and that there are many who are in attendance online today who knew Ben at UC Berkeley, and many who are here in person who knew Ben at UC Berkeley, who respected him as a friend and who also thought that he was just extraordinarily fun and special to hang out with. Ben showed up. He was a leader in the Cal Berkeley Democrats, and it is hard to organize democratic volunteerism with college students. And Ben always showed up, and he advocated on behalf of all the issues that were important to the Cal Berkeley Democrats. We've heard today about his leadership on behalf of disability rights, which is so valuable and so important, but he knew all the issues, and I would absolutely vote for him for president. He was a smart guy. We all love him and we all value him, and we are all so grateful that his presence taught us so much about his life, and he will be dearly missed.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name's Tom. I went to college with Ben. We met freshman year. We studied political science together, and we're in the Cal Berkeley Democrats. And I remember a few months after school started, we were walking through campus, and I had this baby blue polo shirt on, and he said, "That's the gayest shirt I've ever seen, Tom." And I joke with him that he pushed me back in the closet because I was so insecure about that for 3 more years, which was probably a good thing because our senior year we spent more time at the bar than we did in the classroom. We would go to San Francisco probably every Thursday and Friday and Saturday and Sunday. And I would help him get in my car, and we'd disassemble his chair, put it in the trunk. We'd get out on the other side of the bridge, and we'd do it night after night. It was some of the best years. If you've come out, or people have come out, I'm sure many here have, because you knew Ben, it's like a liberation in many ways, and Ben was my liberator. He was the person I shared the most with as I was discovering myself. He was with me at that bar the night I met my husband, which November 15th is 20 years we've met on the dance floor at the Badlands in San Francisco. And Ben could bust a move on the floor as good as anyone, as well as anyone. And just we had such a blast. And I'm so happy to see all the wonderful friends he's made here. You know, being all the way on the other side of the country, we were still friends, but we didn't go to lunch every day, and we didn't have these memories I've heard about, but we did get to see each other just about every year. I would come out here for work. In fact, this weekend was going to be that next time we were all together, and many people in the back. We had plans to see each other with Ben tomorrow. And I got that terrible call from Heather. And wish we had this weekend with him, but he'll be with us in our hearts forever. And the world is a brighter place because he was here with us, and we will never forget Ben. So thank you.
Thank you. So I'm going to read a few more of the comments that are online, and then Heather is going to close our time of remembrance. We have a very active group online. From Jacqueline Blanchard, throughout my time at Respectability, Ben was the person I knew best on staff. He was so welcoming and warm, and I am grateful that I had the opportunity to get to know him. He was a funny, intelligent, and kind person who was truly making a difference in the world. It is hard to picture the fellowship program without him, as he was its very heart and soul. Ben was a light in a world that can often feel cold and dark. My heart breaks for his family. May his legacy live on. From Shira Leader in California, sending you all love and positive vibes during this difficult time. Ben was my high school friend and my fellow mentor for the National Leadership Program. Ben was very supportive and funny, and he was advocate for all people, including those with disabilities. And I will carry Ben's legacy to continue to advocate and make the world a better place. I will never forget you, and you will be missed by me and many others. I love you, Ben. Maria and Anya Flatow, my family and I have known Ben for at least 20 years. It was nice to know another individual with spina bifida in Monterey County. He and Stephanie had always been so warm and kind to us. We will always cherish our memories we built together. From Christina Lisk, Ben is one of the biggest reasons I have gone ahead with the Disability Writers Group. When I was a nonprofit apprentice at Respectability, he not only encouraged me to develop this group as a program idea, he also believed in my skills so much that he got me special work in writing. Anytime I wanted to lead, he encouraged me to step up, even helping me when I tried to start a physical therapy support group. For any disabled leader in general, but especially those who wanted to think outside of the box, Ben was an especially powerful mentor. I am going to miss his Benly wisdom. From Melissa, beautiful words from Ben's mom and sisters, sending love and thoughts to you all. Ben is with us in spirit and always will be. He is very much missed by me. He and his memories will live on forever. My heart goes out to Justin's family as well. Rebecca Wolf, I feel lucky that I got to participate in the Respectability Fellowship Program this year while Ben was leading. I appreciated having his honesty and advice during our one-on-one meetings and his humor during our team meetings. He would put on funny Zoom backgrounds and make us all laugh. From Winnie, I knew Ben from UC Berkeley too. He introduced me to the disability community. I will never forget all the laughter we shared and all the time I was running and trying to catch up with him going full speed down the hill. He is the reason I am a special education teacher now. From Mary Louise, the heart has its roots that tie to other living hearts. My friendship with Polly and Stephanie are my tie to Ben. What a magnificent angel on earth he was, and it is easy for me, as for all here today, to see where Ben got his wings. His life strengthened them. For me in California, having enjoyed his presence for such a short time in my garden, I shall carry his presence with every glance at the beauty of nature. As I listened to speakers today, Ben's force was undeniable. Thank you, Lord, for gracing my life with Stephanie's personal garden, her giving, caring children. Peace, love, and total acceptance of all of God's gifts. Rest in joy, Ben. From Alicia, I met Ben in the beginning of the 2000s. I had just been diagnosed with my first of 5 so far autoimmune issues. Things were hard and I was thrown into it all with not much help. Ben basically was my introducer to wheelchair life. It was the best thing that could ever have happened to me. He showed me we could do anything, especially drive. This one time we drove down to Carmel. I had been lamenting hiking with my father and how I couldn't do it anymore, so of course Ben took me hiking. We went up a trail clearly not made accessible, full of roots and crags and dips. It was like nature's best obstacle course, and Ben was my coach. We got all the way to the top of the mountain trail, and after admiring the view, we headed down. On our way down, we ran into a downed tree. We were determined to make it through the trail, so I transferred onto the tree and Ben crawled underneath. That's really what you wanted to know, right, Stephanie? We did some crazy wheelchair acrobatics, but we got past the down limb and finished that trail. From Ina Hillebrandt, what a way to describe how Ben was with everyone. He was there for everyone, like an app on a phone. I've been thinking how amazing it was that Ben could be there for so many. All these recollections of the magical and powerful sides of Ben, the love, the inspiration, and the advocacy he lived and taught are incredible, and the laughter and joy he shared. Steph, Holly, and Heather, may all these heartfelt memories stay with you and fill you with the knowledge Ben will be with you always, and as will all he touched and whom they will touch. From David Vanneroff, Stephanie, you are a pillar of strength. You always have been. Thank you for bringing Ben home and allowing his bright light to shine on the world and make a difference. Ben was a manifestation of the awe-inspiring love and support he received from his family. He took that gift and shared it with so many others. That was his superpower. Thank you for making it possible to hear from some of the lives Ben impacted. Ben didn't just become an angel, he always was one. Thank you to everyone who shared today and made that plain to see. And one last one. I am Ben's cousin. This is from David. I am Ben's cousin watching the memorial now. What an impact Ben had. He will live on powerfully in the only way any of us can, the effect he had on others and their influence on the important people in their lives, and on and on. Long after you and I are gone, something Ben told someone or how someone felt about him will be alive in someone connected by that love, generations down the line.
Wow. I a lot of things I could say, but I want to say thank you all for coming, and thank you all for reaching out to my grandmother and all of you online and everyone who has just been so supportive for us through this process. And I want to say thank you for that. Ben was a mentor for me for much of my life, and I think I can confidently say my best friend. And someone who I and we all will miss very dearly. Excuse me.
I'm Heather, Ben's sister. I think I have about 17 years on him, 18 maybe. I chose a reading from John O'Donohue from his writing called Anamkara, a book of Celtic wisdom. Death is a lonely visitor. After it visits your home, nothing's ever the same again. There's an empty place at the table. There's an absence in the house. Having someone close to you die is an incredibly strange experience. A strange and desolate experience. Something breaks within you then that will never come together again. Gone is the person whom you loved, whose face and hands and body you knew so well. This body, for the first time, is completely empty. This is very frightening and strange. After death, many questions come into your mind concerning where this person has gone and what they see and feel now. The death of a loved one is bitterly lonely. When you really love someone, you would be willing to die in their place. Yet no one can take another's place when that time comes. Each one of us has to go alone. It is so strange that when someone dies, they literally disappear. Human experience includes all kinds of continuity and discontinuity, closeness and distance. In death, experience reaches the ultimate frontier. The deceased literally falls out of the visible world of form and presence. At birth, you appear out of nowhere. At death, you disappear to nowhere. The terrible moment of loneliness and grief comes when you realize you will never see the deceased again. The absence of their life, the absence of their voice, face, and presence becomes something that Sylvia Plath says begins to grow beside you like a tree. O'Donohue goes on to say, death can become for you the moment of release into the deepest treasures of your own nature. It can be your full entry into the temple of your soul. As Ben's sister, I want to appeal to you all. I'm going to need your help. If the tragedy of Ben's passing has any hope of delivering us into the temple of our soul, we are going to need one another. As my friend Greer wrote to me, only the hand of friendship, warm and quiet, delivers any kind of solace. Thank you.
So I invite all of you to hold all of these remembrances in your heart and in your soul as Ramsey and Robin play Stand By Me, which was a song that Ben loved.
When the night has come and the land is dark and the moon is the only light you'll see, I won't cry, no, I won't shed a tear, just as long as you stand by me. And darling, stand by me, oh, stand by me. Stand by me, stand by me, stand by me. If the sky that we look upon should tumble and fall, and the mountains crumble to the sea, no, I won't shed a tear, no, I won't shed a tear, just as long as you stand by me. Darling, stand by me, oh, stand by me. Stand by me, stand by me, stand by me. Whenever you're in trouble, you can stand by me, oh, stand by me. Stand by me, stand by me, stand by me.
Thank you, Robin and Ramsey. Going to close today's service with a prayer that was meaningful to Ben and a song that he and Justin asked me to sing at their wedding. So please join me in the Lord's Prayer as printed in your order of service. Mother, Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. So when Ben and Justin were married, Justin in particular asked me to sing this song. I think I had sung it at some worship service or another at some time prior to that, and it was very meaningful to them. So I sang it at their wedding service, and then I sang it at Justin's burial. And so now here we are at Ben's memorial celebration of life, and so I'm going to sing it to him and to Justin and to anyone in this room who needs to hear it. But I will tell you that Justin and Ben used to sit right back there, right back there. There are two wheelchairs, oops, sorry, there are two wheelchairs side by side. And I will also say that, you know, one of the great sadnesses that I have, in addition to both of them dying too soon, is that they were part of our church's strong commitment to becoming more accessible. We're a 100-year-old building, and 100-year-old buildings aren't accessible. And so, you know, we now have our accessible bathroom off of the entryway, and next spring we will actually have a ramp so that everybody can come in the same door. And Ben and Justin both were such strong, and also, as other people have said, kind voices, reminding us and just, and I say reminding because it's like, hello, yeah, everybody needs to come in the same door. You know, it's not just about there's a way to get in, it's about everybody coming in the same door. So Ben and Justin, I'm really sorry that we didn't get it done before or while you were still here to be part of it. If you know this song, please feel to join it. Please, I'm getting all, feel free to join in. I'm looking at them. How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. I'll leave you with this prayer of blessing as we depart for a reception in Ben's honor, and I hope you will all stay because there is so much amazing food. Let us pray. God of mystery and mercy, thank you for bringing us together to celebrate Ben's life. He was a beautiful and big-hearted person who left us too soon. We are grateful to have known him and pray he is resting and playing in eternal joy and peace. May your blessing be upon him and upon all here present. Amen.
many people I'll never know. So many places that I'll never go. There is one thing that I feel inside. Love is real. I can feel this in my soul. This was supposed to be exiting music. Jaya Bhagavan, 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 Jaya Bhagavan. This love I know is real in my soul. Was torn apart, but love made me whole. This love I have now